Welcome to James Joyce's divine and delirious comedy Finnegans Wake. In this episode, number 17, we'll hear Irish-Canadian actor and my good friend and colleague Richard Harte performing pages 81 to 86 from Chapter 4 of Joyce's last novel. I'm Adam Seelig, the director of the reading you'll soon hear. Irish-Canadian actor Pip Dwyer has joined the cast of our film/podcast series for Chapter 8 of the novel, which we recently shot at what might be the most fitting venue in all of Toronto, given that Chapter 8 is known as the Washerwomen Chapter, and that is a laundromat called Ulster Coin Wash. Yes, to the Irish listeners out there, Toronto, once called the Belfast of Canada, has a robust history of Northern Irish Protestant immigration, resulting in a downtown residential street named Ulster, where you will find, naturally, Ulster Coin Wash. We will edit and release Chapter 8 in the future, and I promise you it's truly something to look forward to. Finnegans Wake is a production of One Little Goat Theatre Company. For the next 5 years, One Little Goat will film and record all 17 chapters, roughly 30 hours, of Joyce's Finnegans Wake before live audiences in various locations, screening and releasing them along the way with the aim of completing the entire book in time for its 90th birthday, May 4th of 2029. One Little Goat Theatre Company is an official charity in Canada and the United States. If you'd like to support our work, please visit us online at www.onelittlegoat.org to make a charitable donation. To get in touch with us, you'll find our email address on One Little Goat Theatre Company's website, and we'd love to hear from you. John Cage's essay on experimental music provides a way of thinking about Joyce's experimental novel. And I'm sure in what I'm about to quote, you'll notice John Cage's use of the verb to wake. Quote, "And what is the purpose of writing music? One is, of course, not dealing with purposes, but dealing with sounds. Or the answer must take the form of paradox, a purposeful purposelessness, or a purposeless play. This play, however, is an affirmation of life, not an attempt to bring order out of chaos, nor to suggest improvements in creation, but simply a way of waking up to the very life we're living." Joyce's Finnegans Wake was a major inspiration and source text for John Cage, so I'm not surprised that the stated purpose of Cage's playfully purposeless art, like Joyce's, is to wake us. Sex and violence. In Chapter 4, we get the violence first. Today's reading opens with the fourth and final confrontation between the cad and our protagonist, H.C. Earwicker. The first confrontation occurs in Chapter 2 when H.C.E. encounters the so-called cad.
He met a cad with a pipe.
The second, a variation on the first, makes a gun more explicit and also puts a kind of English complexion on the cad.
It was after the show at Wednesbury that one tall man, humping a suspicious parcel, when returning late amid a dense particular on his home way from the second house of the Boer and Burgess Christie ministers by the outspot, Roy's Corner, had a Barkus revolver placed to his face with the words, "You're shot, Major," by an unknowable assailant, masked.
That's from Chapter 3, which later includes another variation on this confrontation, this time with the cad appearing as a German newspaper reporter, Herr Betrefender, who attacks Earwicker with a verbal barrage of 111 insults.
W.D.'s Grace, gibbering bayonets of Dublin. His father was a Munzer and she had him in a growler. Born in Bailey. Artist.
That's confrontation number 3. The fourth and final one, the last battle, if you will, occurs now in Chapter 4 with the fight instigated by an attackler, described as a Kropotkin, making him either, or both, a Russian revolutionary and or Irish anarchist. And they fight, the attacker attacking and the defender, HCE, defending. But as so often happens in the fluid dream language of Finnegans Wake, these opposing figures become confused to the point where we can no longer tell the attacker from the attacked. Perhaps they're ultimately one and the same. Perhaps they're both HCE himself, as Dennis Rose has theorized, and the confrontations we've been witnessing all along are internal to the sleeping earwicker, divided within and at times against himself. No wonder both assailant and assailed need to break after their brawl, not merely for refreshment, but for a complete refresh of identity, or as the Wake puts it, they take a, quote, pause for refreshment, the same man, or a different and younger him of the same ham, close quote. This merging of identities, which happens throughout the novel, reminds me in particular of a phrase early in chapter 3, quote, by the coincidence of their contraries reamalgamerge in that identity of undiscernibles, where the Baxters and the Fleshmans may they cease to be divilans. I love that coincidence of their contraries. The purposeful purposelessness or purposeless play of chapter 4 continues with some, quote, banter between the attacker and the attacked, who appear to make up and get along before parting ways. One of them crosses a bridge, spits out his teeth, a very dreamlike image, and, still bloody from the brawl, files a police report. Adeline Glasheen points out that the pattern of encounter, plea, attack, and counterattack may owe something to Charles Baudelaire's fable Let's Beat Up the Poor, in which the narrator randomly attacks a beggar. The beggar's counterattack, however, is so successful that the narrator ultimately acknowledges the beggar as his equal. Monsieur, vous êtes mon égal. Sir, you are my equal. That the Wake goes further by fusing and confusing the opposing parties might be something else Joyce learned from Baudelaire, in this case from the French poet's most famous line of all, Hypocrite lecteur, mon semblable, mon frère. Hypocrite, brother, we're the same. And then we're at a trial. You'll hear the court convened and called to order to solve, quote, the was-not-to-be crime conundrum, close quote, of HCE, the crime conundrum being the hazy sin committed by our protagonist, which the Dublin public won't let go of since the scandal surrounding it first spread in Chapter 2. To allege HCE of wrongdoing, let alone convict him based on a, quote, was-not-to-be crime conundrum, close quote, could not possibly hold up beyond a reasonable doubt in any proper court of law. Luckily for us readers and listeners, this court is far from proper, resembling more of a show trial or kangaroo court a la Lewis Carroll's Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland, or the 1992 courtroom comedy My Cousin Vinny. A drunk prisoner, Festy King, is called to the stand, though he's hardly a reliable witness given that he comes from, quote, a family long and honorably associated with the tar and feather industries. Crown Attorney P.C. Robert attempts to dig up dirt on HCE via Festy King, and the public gallery, quote, convened by the Irish agricultural and preposteral organizations, is clearly ready to get their hate on. There's plenty of purposeful purposelessness at play. Now it's time for Richard's performance of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, page 81, line 12, to page 86, line 31 of Chapter 4. The performance was filmed and recorded at Type Books on Queen Street West in Toronto on January 22nd, 2024, with a live audience.
It was hard by the house there, plainly on this dissoluded and a book and cold spot, repastric then resurfaced that now is, that lutral sold of lateral bot, in the saddle of the Brennans, now miles past pass, versts and verse from true civilization, not where his dreams top their traums halt, beneath there, but where live land yon tide meared with the wild, saltly with flood, that the attacker, a Kropatkin, the wonder medium and between colours with truly native pluck, engage the adversary, who had more in his eye than was less to his leg, but whom for plunder's sake he mistook in a heavy rain to be Oglethorpe or some other ginkus, Pard apparently, to whom the head and tailless chicken nest egg bore some Michelangelo-esque resemblance, making use of sacrilegious languages to the defect that he would challenge their hemispheres to exterminate them, but he would canonise the blur's life out of them and lay him out contritely, as smart as the blur at his bloody light person. 3 Patrick Nosters and a couple of the Hell Muries. 2 a sacre pour un sacreur, femme à barbe, one Maurice. At the same time, so as the plug well let the bloody well goats out of him, catching hold of an oblong board he had in with which he usually broke furnitures, he rose a stick at him. The border incident pre-repeated itself. The pair, whether they were Nipple or Warno engaging Whiling Tow or the Razgias trying to reconnoitre the General Bukalov, I may not say, struggled apparently for some considerable time, the cradle rocking equally to one oppositely from the other on its law of capture and recapture, under the alien rules around the book safe, fight like purple-topped Tipperary Swede, secremented service of the divine zeal, and in the course of their tussle the taller man, who had opened his bully bowl to beg, said to the miner who was carrying the worm, a handy term for the portable distillery, which consisted of 3 vats, 2 jars, and several bottles, though we purposely say nothing of the stiff, both parties having an interest in the spirits. Let me go, Potteed, I hardly knew ye. Later on, after the solstitial pause for refreshment, the same man, or a different and younger him of the same ham, asked in the vernacular with a very ugly chew-chin grin, was 6 Victoria's 15 pigeon take ye off of you, Pelahimi, slung fella, by picky-pocky 10 to 12 months behind his eye? There was some further colloid banter, and severe tries to convert for the best part of an hour, and now a Walden affair in the shape of a Webley. We at once recognised our old friend Ned of so many ill-temperate letters, fell from the intruder, who, as stuck to as that cat to that mouse in that tube of that Christchurch organ, did the image of girl cloud pensive flout above them like young charb in ribbons and pigtail, whereupon became friendly, and saying not his shirt to tear, to no wanted, joking and Dobberty's all aside laying, if his change companion, who stuck still to the invention of his strong box, with a tenacity corroborating their mutual territorial rights, happened to have the loose change of a £10 crickler about him at the moment, adding that half so he would pay him back the 6 Vicks odds, do you see, out of that for what was taken on the man of Sample's last uni or you like. Do you follow me, Captain? To this, the other, Billy with the Boom, who had mummed and mauled up to that, for he was hesitancy carried to excessism, rather amusedly replied, would you be grossly surprised, Hill, to learn that, as it so happens, I honestly have not such a thing as the loo, as the least chance of a tin-pan crackler anywhere about me at the present moment. But I believe I can see my way, as you suggest, it being Yuletide or Judenfest, and as it's mad not sun for you, when it's Arthur's Erzmon for me, for to advance you something like 4 and 7 pence between hopping and trapping, which you might just as well have, boy Bacchus, the boy JJ and Esmith. There was a minute's silence before memory's fires rekindling, and then Heart Alive, which at very first wind of gay, and Wick's ears pricked up, the starving gun, the striking pig, became strangely calm, and forthright swear by all his lords personal that the third tree of Sheol might ramify up his show fund to the looks of Pointlix, but he would go good to him sometime, that's my word for it, for a tip off the old flint. In the Nictean glossary that purveys a prioric roots for a posteriori's tongues, this is not language at any sense of the word, and one might as fairly go and kiss his sprogs has failed to certify whether the war trophy alluded at some lives earlier was at something like a jog, to what, a cocktable, and remarking in languid oily, seemingly much more highly pleased than tongue could tell at this opening of a lifetime, and the foretaste of the Dunbank pearl mothers, and the boy to wash down, which he would feed to himself at the rude cow at Talla, and then into the good woman at Ringsend, and after her in at Conway's Inn at Black Rock, and first of all, cursed be all, where appetite would cleanest be, at a funeral fair, or fun fain real, Adam and Eve's in Quantity Street by the grace of Gaby Queen Taja, her will and testament. You stunning little South Downer! I know you anywhere, Dick Clady. Let me truthfully tell you, in and out of the extinction of life, and who the hell else, be your bladge patch on the bony part. Gold ball I've struck this daily, dilate night on nights by golly. My hat! You have some bully German grips on Downer. He sputting his Faust, axin. He topped the raw pest, pardon. He poked his pick, a tip is a tap, and he took his friend's leave. and with French hen, or the portafolium of hastes and leisures, about to continue that, the queer mixture exchange the packs in embrace, or pog puxy as practice between brothers of the same breast, hallelujah, killelujah, lenala. And having ratified before the God of the day their tog and truth, which belittlers have schmal called the treatance to cognac, turning his phasmedial straight in the direction of Moscas, he first got rid of a few mitts, millers and hurler shoes, and levanted off with tubular gerbils at a bull's run over the Asback Bridge, spitting his teeth on roofs, with the 7 and 4 in Dane Geld, and their humour all hurled at or other uncertain weapon of lignum vitae. But so ever more luminescent of a toboggan poop, picked up to keep some crow-plucking appointment with some rival realtors anywheres between Peerage and the Little Horn, while this poor Delaney, who they left along with the Confederate fender behind, and who, albeit bars bluffed, poured up wonderfully wonder all of it with a whole number of plum-sized contusions, Lasana brews, coxets, all over him, reported the occurrence in the best way he could to the flabbergaze of the whole lab, giving the Paddy Banners the military salute, as for His Excellency the old Daffy, in justifiable hope that, in nobly Roman review of the hugely satisfactory conclusion of the negotiations in the jungle monkish Agrippintian derivative, some lotion or fomentation of poppy heads would be generously exhibited to the parts. At the nearest watch-house in Vicar Lane, the white ground of his face all covered with Dagonelli Red Cross non-fatal mammalian blood, as proof positive of the seriousness of his character, and that he was bleeding in self-defiance, staunch it, from the nostrils, lips, pavilion and palate, while some of his hitter's hairs had been pulled off his knot's head by coat, though otherwise his all-round health appeared to be middling, as it proved most fortunate that not one of the 206 bones and 501 muscles in his torso was the whit the worse for her whacking. Her who? Now then, leaving clashing ash, brawn and muscle and brass made out, sturt and born, and rock crystal to wreck eyes in glass, but worming along gradually for her savings back towards mother waters, so many miles from bank and Dublin stone, limby adding even to the 11th dynasty to reach that thuddy sick end ham laugh, and to the question of Boney's unlawfully obtaining a pierced paraflam and claptrap fireguard, that crops out the still more salient point of the politish leanings and town pursuits of our forebear. Eldon Durdinelli, may his ship take stick in the bottom of the river, and all his cruisers stock locked in the bottom of the seas. Who within the black of your toenail, sir? I've been mistakenly ambushed by one of the old Vedas, and his clothes is made no matter, ma'am. To being coyoed offhand when the Huguenot heckler with the Peter the Painter wanted to hold him, was consistently practising the first of the primary and imprescriptible liberties of the Pacific subject by circulating the British boys to your bellybone and chuck-a-chum-a-chance alongst one of our unprohibited cemetery through farts. Opened a buggy and bike to walk Wellington Park Road, with the curb a quacker's quack nostrum under his oxter and his alpen stuck in his red hand, a highly commendable exercise. Or, number 2 of our act illegitimate plebeian, on the brink. Beware to bark a man at his will, of taking place upon a public seat, to what? Bear by boats, most easterly, but all goes west, of Blackpool bridges, as a public protest in a tour-like vice, without intent to annoy either, being praised good thankfully for the wrath-bereaved ring-dove and the fear-stung boa constrictor, and all the more right jolly well pleased, which he was, of having other people's weather. But to return to the Atlantic and finish up proper, as if that were not to be enough for anyone. But little headway, if any, was made in solving the was-not-to-be crime conundrum, when a child of man, Festy King, of a family long and honourably associated with the tar and feather industries, who gave an address in old Plume Manch, Mayo of the Saxons, in the heart of a foul-famed Pocheen district, was subsequently hailed up at the Old Bailey on the Calends of Mars, under an incompatibly framed indictment of both accounts, from each equinoxious points of view, the one fellow's fetch being the other fellow's person. That is to say, flying cushions out of his overalls, and making faces amongst his forces on the field. Oh yea, when the prisoner, soaked and methylated, appeared in dry dock a patently ambrosiarialised, like Corsa's Corduroy caricature, where, besides stains, rents and patches, his fight shirt, straw braces, sou'wester, and a policeman's corkscrew trousers, all out of the true, as he had purposely torn up all his Symmetry-man's bespokes in the Mamer time, deposing for his execution with all the flowers of sparse of the Royal Irish vocabulary, how the whole Paderjag Martin Trapeza et Suet and all the sulphate of copper had fallen off him quats unaccountably, like the crystallisations of Elam Even, while he was trying for to stick fire to himself. In fact, he was dripping as he found upon stripping for a pipkin of malt as he feared the cool rain. It was attempted by the Crown, P.C. Robart, to show that King Elois Crowbar, once known as Melody, impersonating a climbing boy, rubs some pixes of any luvial peatsmoor over his face, plucks and pusses with a clay turf as the best means of disguising himself, and was the middleweight fair in Mudford of a Thursday, feist of Peeler and Paul, under the ill-assumed names of Tykingfest and Rabwork, picked by him and Anthony out of a telephone book, allegedly with a pedigree pig, unlicensed, and a hyacinth. They were on that sea by the plain of air 999 years, and they never cried crack or ceased from regular paddle wicking till that they landed there too and trifling selves amidst camel and ass, greybeard and suckling, priest and pauper, matron, matron and merry meg into the middle of the mudstorm. The gathering, convened by the Irish agricultural and preposteral organisations to help the Irish muck look his brother Dane in the face, and attended, thanks to Larry, by large numbers of Christies and Jews' totems, was distinctly of a scattery kind when the ballybrickin he could get no good of, after cock-o'-the-walking through a few fancy-fought mains, ate some of the doorweg. The pikey later selling the gentleman rape pair because she, Francie sister that is to say, ate a whole side of his, the animal's sty, on a struggle street, quista Troya, in order to pay off his sir lick, 6 doubloons, 15 arrears of his, the villains, not the rumblers, rent.
That was Richard Harte reading pages 81 to 86 of Chapter 4 from Finnegans Wake, recorded live at Type Books on Queen Street West in Toronto on January 22nd, 2024. Join us for episode 18 in a fortnight when Richard continues Chapter 4 of Finnegans Wake. In the meantime, to be sure you don't miss the episode, why not follow or subscribe to this podcast? For more on One Little Goat's Finnegans Wake project, including transcripts of this podcast and the complete films of chapters 1 and 2, visit our website at onelittlegoat.org. And to hear about upcoming performances and screenings, please join our mailing list, also on our website. One Little Goat Theatre Company is a non-profit, artist-driven, registered charity in the United States and Canada that depends on donations from individuals to make our productions, including this one, possible. If you're able, please make a tax-deductible donation through our website, www.onelittlegoat.org. Finnegans Wake is made possible by Friends of One Little Goat Theatre Company and the Emigrant Support Programme of the Government of Ireland. Thank you for your support. And thank you to the artists for this episode: Richard Harte, sound by William Bembridge, stage management by Sandi Becker, directed by yours truly, Adam Seelig. A big thanks to Claire Foster and the staff and owners of Type Books, as well as to our wonderful live audience. Thank you to everyone at the Irish Consulate in Toronto, and thank you to Production Consultants Cathy Murphy, Andrew Moodieand Shai Rotbard-Seelig. Thank you for listening.